Hello, gorgeouses. Oh my gosh, we are a mess here. There we are. Hello, happy Friday. Welcome to the morning show. Welcome to my favorite day of the week where we do live Q&A. How are you feeling? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today we have a couple of juicy questions lined up, but per the usual, as always, if you have anything that comes up for you while we are here live, be sure to drop it down in the comments and we'll get to everything that we can get to. Okay, well, happy Friday. We have a lot happening. Amen. There's a lot going on. Good morning, everyone. So today, hi, Erin. So today, we are actually leaving to go out of town for the weekend. So busy, busy, busy. Good morning, Chris. Feeling much lighter energy today. Amazing. That day after the full moon, the day after the full moon is almost like a reprieve, is it not? It's like, oh, the energy was intense. And then we have this like lightened thing. So I'm wondering how you're feeling. I am wondering, I'm wondering what I'm thinking. What am I feeling? Chris said, I had a dead bird on my doorstep yesterday. Any insights? I mean, intuitively, no. Well, that's not true. I always Google the animals. When the random animals show up, I always Google them. But intuitively, I think anything that represents death represents a completion of sorts. So something has done, something has died, something has let go. And you think a lot, I mean, I think a lot about like the phoenix. The phoenix has to death who he was in order to be reborn into who he's meant to become. So you've got a bird, you got death, you know? But also, always tune in to what you receive intuitively because our spirit guides and our guidance is always communicating to us in some way. There's so many like signs and symbols that I have for myself that are not universal, but it is what came through for me in the moment. So an example, cardinals are not a universal, but it is our sign, mine and Robert's sign for divine alignment. And the story behind that is so personal and so insane. Like I had gone to a shaman in New York and she told me my spirit animals came and that I have a lion, which I was aware of, and a cardinal. And I was like, cardinal, what? Never thought about cardinals before a day in my life. I think even my OGs may not know this story. So I had just met Robert at the time. We had met just a couple of weeks before. And so I'm with this shaman. She's doing her thing. She's telling me about my spirit animals. And she says, Cardinal. And oh my gosh, I've got to remember it. She said, the Cardinal, like something like the Cardinal is here to set you free or something along those lines. And it really was like, what? Cardinal, huh? Like I literally had never thought about cardinals before in my life. So, anywho, I get home from that trip and I tell Robert about what happened. And he's like, oh, that's so funny. Cardinals are always around me. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, they just like, they're always around. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if you realize what you just said. And he's like, what? No, I mean, they're probably around for everybody. And I was like, no, I don't see cardinals. Never noticed them a day in my life. And in that moment, it was like this big, like, oh my God. The shaman had come around and said, the cardinal is here to set you free. And then here, this man who I had just met is like, cardinals are always around me. It's really weird. I was like, oh my God, Robert, you're the cardinal. Like, you are the cardinal. So, ever since that day, cardinals have been such a huge thing for us in our relationship, so much so that Robert has it tattooed on his shoulder. So, all of that is to say is that these symbols and these signs are going to show up for you, and it's personal. It's personal. Like we talk about angel numbers, we see that everywhere. Angel numbers have some universal meanings, like 555 means big change is coming. 111 typically just means like you're on path, you're in alignment. But I have received specific messages to myself around certain numbers that I see. So, an example, 444 For me, the meaning means you are the power you seek. So anytime that I see the number 444, for me, it's like this reminder that you are what you are seeking. I am the power. I must cultivate this from within because it's me. There's nothing outside of me. I am the power I seek. Another one is 1155. For me means you're worth it. Like you're worthy of it. Go for it. You can do it. 1144 is you will be called to do it differently. Lord in heaven above, I cannot tell you how many times that has surfaced up and in drastically varying ways. So, signs are communication. Like our guides will speak to us in whatever way we'll listen. You ever get like a message when you're watching a show? All of a sudden you hear this one line and you're like, I heard that. And I heard it different than if I was just being entertained and watching a show. Right. So, you want to pay attention to stuff like that because it's our snow globe, and everything that's popping up in our snow globe is for us. So even things that you think are for someone else, they're for you because it's in your snow globe. Now, it might be something that you can communicate to someone else for sure, but it's always going to be for you in some way. Yeah. Cool. Good question. Chris said, I got that it was an ending of an old pattern. Beautiful, beautiful. So, with that, you have to take that conscious responsibility with ending old patterns. You have to consciously implement a new pattern. This is such a huge thing that I think is not talked about enough. Whenever we want to end an old cycle, you have to consciously initiate a new cycle because the old cycle, like we've talked about before, has momentum. It's got energy to it, and you are familiar with it, which is the biggest tie. So the moment that you're like, I'm done, I don't want to repeat that anymore, you've got to put all of your energy into focusing on creating a new pattern, a new cycle, a new level, and pour energy into that. Because otherwise, you're just going to default back because it's familiar. Do you see what I'm saying? So great, great. Okay, so yesterday we had a question on the show, which was essentially like, how do I handle slash help my partner if my partner's going through an up level? Like, what do I do with that? And I thought it was a beautiful question. And we didn't have much time to go into it yesterday, but I think it's a beautiful thing to dive into today for our Q&A. And of course, you guys, as long as we are here live and you have anything come up, feel free to drop your questions in the comment section below, and we'll get to whatever we have time to get to. So, in terms of personal growth, personal healing, spiritual growth, moving through life in your relationship, that brings up a whole different set of dynamics, doesn't it? Because it's not just about you, it's you growing. Your partner is also a soul on his or her own spiritual path, growing in their own way. So a lot of times these two paths, they're intertwining and they definitely affect each other in different ways, but you're on two totally separate paths. And I think that's one of the first really foundational things when it comes to thinking about your relationship and how you want to navigate it to have a really beautiful experience in your relationship. You have to, number one, keep in mind that you are separate individuals, right? You guys may be doing life together, but you're not walking the same path. You have a separate set of lessons. You have a separate set of growth. You have a separate idea of the world. You have separate snow globes. And so the first thing to really keep in mind, period, foundationally, whether you're going through an up level or not, is that your partner is an individual and they're walking their own path. And you might have an idea of the path that you think that they should be walking, but that doesn't mean that's the path that they're on. Do you see what I'm saying? So whenever your partner is going through a growth period, it can feel a little tumultuous because they're having to face themselves in a whatever way that they need to face themselves. And they might be a little bit more stressed. You know what I mean? They might be a little bit more tense. They might have a little bit more emotion happening for them that they don't normally have. So here's the first thing that you have to have in mind if you're going to be a partner that is going to support the growth of your partner and not stifle it. Number one is you cannot take them personally. Write it down, tattoo it, put it on a t-shirt, blow it up, put it on your wall. You cannot take the emotions and actions of your partner personally. Now, what I mean by that, and I'm going to really, really get into the nitty gritty here because a lot of my clients, a lot of you guys who are in my world, you are very empathic. You can feel them, you can feel people, and especially you can feel your partner. So when your partner is in a bit of a tumultuousness in their emotions or what they're thinking or what they're feeling, a lot of times men tend to be more heady, so you might feel that like tension in their mind when you're around them. You cannot take what they're feeling as a personal thing that you need to do something about. Okay. Do you see what I'm saying? First and foremost, whatever they're going through, think about it like, oh my gosh, I'm getting the image of the Tasmanian devil. It's probably a lot more accurate description for me. But think about it like this, you know, the Tasmanian devil from our what was it, Looney Tunes or whatever growing up, and it's just chaos, right? Because it's just like that. Instead of trying to stop that chaos, like, "Let me fix it, let me soothe it," instead of that, think about yourself as being bigger and a circle around that chaos. Like, I'm holding the space for you to have this chaotic experience. Do you see what I'm saying? So we can't take it personally because, again, they're a soul on their own soul's journey. So if they're moody for a day or they're like snippy or they've got a lot of emotion happening or whatever, there's space for grace. Now, this is on the foundation too that your partner is a, good person. It's a good person. They're not trying to do anything wrong by anybody, right? They're just going through it. So in that, in you being able to feel your partner's emotions, here's what you've got to know for yourself. Because you can feel people, it's going to make you uncomfortable. You know what I mean? You're gonna want to shift how they feel so that you can feel better. And this is the awareness that we've got to have. Because if I need someone else to change for me to feel better, I've already left the power seat. Do you see what I'm saying? I've already left like my lane. So you want to come into this hyper awareness is like, do if you feel the urge to say to your partner like what's going on, like what can I do, like da, 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 and you want to help them, you want to coach them, you want to whatever, refrain. And really assess if you're needing them to shift their behavior so that you can feel better or if it is actually a situation where help is needed. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's a very big difference in like, hey, I know you're going through a lot. I'm here for you. Whatever you need. If you want to talk about it, let me know. Right? But I got you. You feel that like very strong steadiness with that versus what's going on? What do you feel? What are you feeling? What's happening? You see the difference in that? One is like really strong and steady, and it is so okay that you are going through everything you're going through. And the other one is like, I need you to change because you're making me uncomfortable. Do you guys get it? So think about this in terms of like someone going through growth. If they can feel that you are uncomfortable, that is going to drastically distort their ability to move through that growth. Does that make sense? So it's like, because, we do this all the time. Like, how many times have you been going through something and say, like, we're all like emotionally aware humans here. Say you're having a day where you're just upset. You know what I mean? Like, you're just upset. You're just like, I don't know. A lot of emotion happening, mood, you're just upset. And then someone who you care about is uncomfortable around your upsetness. Not that they're like, I don't like you, but that they're like, what can I do? Like, I just want you to feel better, blah, blah, blah. What do you automatically do? I'm fine. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. And you try to shut it off so that they can be more comfortable. Do you see what I'm saying? That will stunt the process. So when your partner is going through an emotional up level turmoil, chaos, whatever it is that they're feeling, don't be hyper aware. Don't stunt their process. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's totally okay that you're feeling everything that you're feeling. I got you. I got you. Whatever you need, I got it. I am unbothered by your emotional cadence. You see what I'm saying? Now, that takes a little bit of work, but if you can start with that mentality that you don't need to take them personally, it is so helpful. You don't need to take it personally. I can't tell you how many times, both sides, but for me personally, when I have felt Robert in an up level doing his thing, he's got a lot going on. I can feel him. I can feel that like energy there. And I have to tell myself, this is not for me to do anything about. This is for me to just accept and be good with because it's not about me. Did we all just hear it? It's not about me, right? So sometimes we've got to really call ourselves out and be like, listen, what's happening for them? It ain't about you. Stop making it about you. Do you feel me on this? So, on the other side of that, having a partner who can be so strong like that oak tree and steady when you're going through emotional chaos is a godsend. I mean, a literal godsend. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've been going through it emotionally, and Robert was so steady, just steady. He's like, it's fine. It's fine. I got you. Feel what you need to feel. Go have your moment. It is okay. That kind of space is so conducive for healing, for growth, for you being able to process how you need to process. Does this make sense? So we have to, one, don't take it personally, and two, don't try to fix it. Don't take it personally. Don't try to fix it. Now, we love, oh my gosh, with the balloons. Instagram is so theatrical. Now, we love our partners, right? And we always want to make sure that we can do whatever we can for them. So you want to have the space that's there. You know what I mean? You want to approach it all with an energy of like, if you need me, I'm here. I'm here. Whatever you want to talk about. But you've got to be okay with them doing their own thing. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be okay with like, they might need to hole up, like, meaning like hole up by themselves in a room and work shit out for themselves for like 4 hours or whatever. You got to be good with that. You know what I mean? If they come to you and they're like, I want to talk this out, be a listener, not a fixer. Be a listener, not a fixer. Do not try to fix your partner's situation for them. One, on the female side, you are now going into mothering energy, which is not cute in a relationship. Okay. No male partner wants to be mothered by his female. Nobody wants that. And you can't do someone else's lessons for them. So, one of the best things that you can do is listen and offer insight. Like, well, here's kind of what I'm getting in this. I don't know if this resonates. And just share with no attachment to them doing what you think or agreeing with you or any of those things. Does this make sense for everyone? Chris said, it is everything. My partner is so steady for me when I'm going through stuff, and I'm so grateful. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things, especially when it comes to relationships and you've got two, powerhouse humans that are really doing their thing, having that, just the knowing that that person has steady support for you is everything. Do you know what I mean? It's everything. And so if you're in a relationship where you feel like this isn't happening for you, you need to initiate to be that. And this is the conversation I have with my clients that come to me for relationship stuff all the time. You have to be the leader in it. And I know a lot of times, especially as females, we're like, but I want my husband to lead. I want my male counterpart to lead. I want him to do it. But here's the thing. If you're the one who's doing the work, like you're in this personal development work, you are seeking to become a better, more expanded human, and he is not, you've got to lead that charge. Do you know what I mean? And so, what's going to happen as you start to do it, you start to take ownership and lead in the way that you want the relationship to be led. You're going to see him start to mirror you. And this is the really, really beautiful thing. Like, this is where we've got to take that full ownership for what's happening in our lives. Because if I'm the one who's sitting there waiting, I'm just waiting for you to do something. And, God bless the men. We don't communicate to them what we're waiting for, do we? Right? Then nothing is going to change. So you've got to take that ownership within yourself and say, like, what is the energy that I want to create in this relationship? And as you do that consistently, you're going to see his behavior start to mirror your behavior. So this is the beautiful, like, beautiful energy that we have and we can bring, and we have the power to transmute anything that's happening in our lives. And it all starts with us. It starts with our own ownership over what we would prefer. And it starts with our leadership to change and shift our behavior in it. What's your part in it? Do you see what I'm saying? Because never, ever, ever, it is complete futile. Please don't ever do it. Never are you going to project onto your partner and get them to be different. That is a formula for divorce, right? Like, don't do that. Don't tell your partner what they need to be doing, how they need to be different. You have to take ownership for your part in it. Who am I being in this? Am I being what I'm asking my partner to be? Now, there's a time and a space for communication in terms of like what you want your how you want your relationship to be and where you want it to go, 100% for sure, but not before you take ownership for yourself. Does that make sense? So, in example, there's been so many times, I know I've talked about this before in earlier years and months, but the first year that Robert and I were together was nothing but triggers. Okay. It was beautiful, like so in love, completely magnetized with each other, but all of the stuff was coming up. Now, thankfully, I do what I do. I understand the psychology and the emotions and the energy that's happening. And I was very clear that the triggers that were getting hit were not created by him. You see what I'm saying? Now, this is a really, really important point. I had not been with Robert long enough for him to be the source of the trigger. Like, within the first few months, like, things were getting hit in me, and I would be so just like angry or hurt or, these very extreme emotions, and I was in enough awareness to realize that this isn't his fault. He's not causing this because he wasn't doing anything to, like, intentionally hurt or do anything in that nature. But his actions were hitting on something in me that was wounded. Does this make sense? And so I had the awareness that this is not something I need to even bring to him just yet. I need to work this out for myself. And so I would go and I would get my journal and I would be like, why am I so pissed off? I mean, basics. Why am I so irate right now? Why does this make me so upset? And I would get to the root of it, which this is the work that we do inside my containers. You guys know this. And in the spiritual coach training program, this is the work I teach you to do with your clients. I got to the root of why this was so upsetting. And as I did that work for myself, this is the beauty. This is what feels like magic. When you get to the root of something and you are able to transmute it, you are actually on a physical level neutralizing the charge of that energy. So everything is energy and everything is just molecules and electrons and protons, and everything has a charge. So when you feel a trigger, you feel a hit where you're just like, you're ready to throw something at the wall. That is a charged energy that's in you. So when you can get to the root of it and you can understand where this charge is coming from and then do the work, which is the work I teach, do the work to neutralize that charge, the trigger goes away. Like, to me, it is the greatest thing in the entire world when we really understand this, because when we're not in the understanding of this work and how all of the, how triggers work, how our emotions work, what's actually happening in our healing, when you're in a trigger, you're just mad and you're blaming something that's outside of you. But that's not helpful because it's not the something outside of you that has created how you feel. How you feel is yours. Do you see what I'm saying? So when you get in there and you neutralize that energy and you heal the trigger, and this can be done, I'm talking 10 minutes. Like, think about a trigger that gets hit for you all the time. You can spend 10 minutes doing this work and you can neutralize the charge. This is why it feels like magic, but what it really is a neutralization of energy. So, in doing that, that then brings me to this calm state. From there, I would go and talk to Robert. Do you see how this saves, like, all of those ego battles? You guys know the ego battles, right? Like, where you're emotionally charged and you just throw all that emotion onto your partner, and then he catches it, and then he's emotionally charged, and he throws it back on you. Like, this is how those arguments start that are completely futile and entirely pointless. So I would take it and I would go and figure it out first, neutralize the energy. Then I was able to approach Robert from a neutral state and say, "This is what happened. Like when you did that, it really hit this in me. And I figured out this was the cause of it in me. This was what it really hit on." And from there, we were able to have a really beautiful healing conversation where he could understand what was happening inside of me and I was able to explain it in a non-emotional way. Do you see how much more productive that is? Like how much more that's going to nurture your relationship versus like just throwing up your emotions on each other. Has anybody, we've all been there. You guys know the arguments that just go in circles. Oh my God. Hard line no. I spent 10 years in relationships that did that, like 10 years in these tumultuous, I wanted to say like stupid arguments in my past. Hardline, no, absolutely not. And I will not, we don't do that. It's a standard for us. We do not do these like ridiculous back and forths. We get to the root of what's happening here. Now, that's not to say that we haven't had our fair share of ego battles. We 100% have. We just move through them really quickly. So when we're both in that, like, I'm getting hit, you're getting hit, we feel our emotions. But the number one thing that we do, this is so in the past, Robert and I have coached both like couples, both male and female together. The number one thing that we say is like, don't leave the room. Like, it's uncomfortable, but stay in the room together until you can go all the way through it. Because what happens a lot of times is you separate because the energy's so big that you can't handle it. You know that feeling where you just want to run away? Your partner pisses you off and you just want to leave the room? Don't leave the room. Stay in the room together. Now, granted, this is an agreement between he and I, so you and your partner have to be on the same page with this. But what happens is when you leave the room, a lot of times it ends up getting swept under the rug. You don't talk about it. So that electronic charge, that charge that's in your body never gets neutralized. And how quickly do you think it gets hit again the next time? Just it's going to come right back up. So in going all the way through it, you neutralize it together. And the other side of it is so beautiful because once you can get to this really beautiful understanding and you neutralize that energy, it creates a bond. So because you're on the same team, you know what I mean? I think we forget this when we go into our ego. We forget I chose my partner. Nobody's forcing me to be here. This is the one person you chose for your life. You see what I'm saying? So in going all the way through it, walls do not get built. We see this all the time, right? We're going into like a full relationship lecture today. We see this all the time where couples, we call it the honeymoon period. We're like, oh, it's the honeymoon period. And then, couples that have been together for 20 years are like, don't worry, that will end. Why? Like, why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because if you do not neutralize the charges of energy when they happen, it builds a wall. And then there's this energy. It feels like a wall, doesn't it? There's this energy between you. And then if you don't do the work to take that wall down, to neutralize the energy and come back into bonding, then it builds. And then the next time it gets triggered, it's going to get built again. And then the next time it gets triggered, it's going to get built again, built again, built again, until it feels literally almost impossible to take this space that's between you all down. That inevitably ends up in divorce or breaking up in some way. And usually it's very tumultuous because there's been so much energetically charged emotion that has not been neutralized, has not been talked about, that you can't even work through anything anymore. And so then the solution becomes, well, let's just leave each other. Shit, right? It's shit. Now, if you take down the wall the second it tries to come up, then that wall never gets built. Honeymoon phase never ends. It's just, you're more in love. You're more excited to be together. You love who they're becoming. You love what they're doing. That doesn't get built. Does this make sense? So, is it easy? Absolutely not. But it's so much harder to grow apart from the one person that you chose simply because you have a hard time communicating and working through that emotional energy together. It's always going to be difficult. It's always hard to have emotional conversations. Like that ego part of us, like we still experience it and we're very practiced in this. But we still experience the emotional like ego. We're just like, no, I'm right. You're wrong. Right? Like that feeling still exists. But what it comes down to is like, what's your priority? You know what I mean? What's your priority? Do you want to prioritize the ego stubbornness of being right over having a beautiful relationship? I mean, in the moment, you might want to say yes, but ultimately, no, of course not. So, if you never build the wall, there never becomes a wall. I never understood like older couples that hate each other. like older as in like they've been together for a while. I never understood that. It was like didn't like there was a time when this was the only person in the world that you wanted to be around. Why would that be different later? Do you know what I mean? Like why would that go away? I never understood it. And I never understood like the talking shit about your partner to other people either. Don't get it. I don't get it. Like I mean I get it from the ego state, but I don't get it in terms of like that's not what you want. And I'm a very big proponent of if it's not what you want, don't give energy to it. I mean, that's just a really like clear across the board in all areas of our life. If it's not something you want in your life, don't give energy to it. Don't feed it because that's how we inevitably end up experiencing what we don't want. We're focusing on the things that is not towards what we want. Yesterday on the client call, beautiful question to ask yourself. Is this decision in alignment with who I want to be? Is this decision in alignment with who I am becoming? Is this decision in alignment with what I want for my life? I mean, if you can stop, pause, and ask yourself that before anything that you do, your entire life will change because now you're getting conscious about how you're creating your reality. Now you're getting conscious about your part in it, which is huge. Amen. Well, here we are at 10:43. All right. Thank you guys, everyone who is on live. I hope this was helpful for you today. So starting next week, our schedule is going Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tell all your friends, tell everyone you know. We're going to go to Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the morning show. We will still do Q&A on Fridays, and we have a submission page now. So if you have a question for the show, you can submit a question totally anonymously at marliansel.com/the morning show. All of the links are in the bios and the show notes and all of that. And if this resonated with you today, please share the show. It helps us to grow our impact, and we're growing the show. All right, loves. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. It's Memorial Weekend. We will still be here Monday, even though it's a holiday. Memorial Weekend. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a just beautiful presence. And if you're in a relationship, practice these tips that we talked about today and just see how your energy can shift and change the dynamic of your relationship. All right, loves. I love you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye, my love.